Has your business gone up since you've been on the show?
It's definitely improved business. I mean, it's nice to not have to advertise because the show does it for you.
Over a decade, Jarrod Schulz was one of the most recognizable faces on reality television. Alongside his partner Brandi Passante, he built a loyal fan base on A&E's Storage Wars, winning over audiences with their bickering, their chemistry, and their underdog spirit. They even landed their own spinoff. But then, almost overnight, Jarrod vanished from television screens. No announcements, no farewell episode, just silence. Fans have been asking the same question ever since. What really happened to Jarrod Schulz? The answer involves a hidden past, a secret breakup, and a night at a bar that changed everything. When Storage Wars premiered in December 2010, Jarrod and Brandi immediately stood out. They were dubbed the Young Guns because they were the youngest bidders in the main cast, a couple in their early 30s going up against seasoned veterans twice their age. Their dynamic was electric. They bickered constantly on camera, argued over bids, and somehow made it all entertaining. Fans loved watching them fight over whether a storage unit was worth the gamble. What most viewers never realized was that Jarrod and Brandi were never actually married. The show presented them as husband and wife for years, but it was all part of the image. They were together. They had 2 kids, Cameron and Peyton, but they never made it official. Still, their chemistry was undeniable, and in 2014, A&E gave them their own spinoff called Brandi and Jarrod, Married to the Job. The series followed them planning a wedding that never happened. It only lasted 8 episodes before getting canceled. But the couple kept appearing on Storage Wars season after season, building their brand and running their thrift store in Orange County. To the outside world, everything looked perfect. But behind the scenes, Jarrod was carrying secrets from a much darker chapter of his life. Long before the cameras and the fame, Jarrod Schulz hit rock bottom. Back in January 1997, when he was just 20 years old, Jarrod was arrested for felony possession of a controlled substance. He pleaded guilty to meth possession and received a 60-day sentence. He got out early on probation, but freedom didn't last long. Just weeks after his release, Jarrod was busted again. This time it was for transporting narcotics and driving under the influence. The judge wasn't lenient the second time around. Jarrod was sentenced to 16 months in state prison. According to sources close to him, that time behind bars was a turning point. Being locked up alongside violent offenders made him realize where his life was heading. One source told Reality Weekly that the experience changed him completely, saying the drugs were at the root of everything and that Jarrod wasn't a bad guy, just someone who went through some dark years. After his release, Jarrod turned his life around. He got a job at a carpet cleaning company, and in 1999, he met Brandi Passante. She was newly hired, and the two hit it off immediately. That meeting would change the course of both their lives. With Brandi by his side, Jarrod reinvented himself. He tried his hand at the mortgage business and found some success, but when the housing market collapsed in the mid-2000s, everything fell apart. Desperate to make ends meet, Jarrod turned to his aunt for advice. She worked at a storage facility and suggested he try bidding on abandoned units. That suggestion led Jarrod and Brandi to open their own thrift store called Now and Then in Orange County. They started showing up at storage auctions, hunting for hidden treasures they could flip for profit. One day at an auction in Harbor City, California, they caught the attention of producers from a new show being developed for A&E. Months later, they were cast members on Storage Wars. The show took off immediately, and Jarrod and Brandi became fan favorites. They opened a second store location in Long Beach, hoping to expand their business. But that second location never turned a profit and quietly closed in 2016. Meanwhile, Jarrod launched a clothing line called Outlaw Apparel. For a while, everything seemed to be working, but beneath the surface, cracks were forming in the foundation of their relationship. Storage Wars went on a 2-year hiatus after season 12, wrapped in 2018. When the show returned in 2021 for season 13, fans immediately noticed something was off. Jarrod and Brandi barely interacted. When they did, it was cold and distant. Gone was the playful bickering that made them famous. Then, in the season premiere, Brandi dropped a bombshell. She looked into the camera and said plainly that she wasn't with Jarrod anymore. She revealed they had actually split back in 2018, right after filming the previous season. For nearly 3 years, they had kept it hidden from the public. In interviews, Brandi hinted that the relationship had been difficult for a long time. She told one interviewer that she wasn't really allowed to have an identity for many years, and that she was finally coming into her own and figuring out who she was. Jarrod addressed the split more casually, saying that just because they weren't together anymore didn't mean they couldn't go to an auction, but separately. The two continued appearing on season 13, but the tension was obvious. Brandi even posted the show's promotional poster on social media with a demon emoji placed directly over Jarrod's face. And then came the night that ended everything. On April 30th, 2021, Brandi was out with friends at a bar in Orange County. According to reports, Jarrod showed up unexpectedly. What started as an uncomfortable encounter quickly escalated into a heated confrontation. Sources told TMZ that Brandi asked Jarrod to leave. He refused. The argument grew louder, and at some point, Jarrod allegedly pushed Brandi twice while shouting at her and her friends. By the time police arrived, Jarrod had already left the scene. Officers tracked him down a few days later. Jarrod denied putting his hands on Brandi, but investigators weren't convinced. The Orange County District Attorney's Office charged him with 1 count of misdemeanor domestic violence battery. The news spread fast. A&E reportedly launched an internal investigation immediately. Sources close to the production told TMZ that several cast members supported the probe and believed Jarrod should face consequences if the allegations were true. While the network never made a public statement, the outcome was clear. Jarrod Schulz never appeared on Storage Wars again. His time on the show that made him famous was over, and it ended not with a farewell episode, but with silence. The domestic violence charge wasn't the only legal issue haunting Jarrod. It turned out he had been dealing with trouble long before that night at the bar. Back in July 2019, Jarrod was charged with resisting an officer during an incident in Lake Forest, California. Details about what happened were never fully released, but the case remained open for years. Then, in October 2021, just months after the altercation with Brandi, Jarrod was hit with another charge. This time, it was for driving under the influence with a blood alcohol content over the legal limit. By 2023, all 3 cases had been consolidated and scheduled for a jury trial. Court records showed pre-trial hearings and delays throughout that summer. As of the most recent reports, the final outcome of these cases has never been publicly confirmed. No updates have been released about whether Jarrod took a plea deal or went to trial. For someone who once seemed to have turned his life around after prison in the 90s, the pileup of charges painted a troubling picture. And for fans who remembered the fun-loving guy from Storage Wars, it was hard to reconcile the Jarrod they knew with the one making headlines for all the wrong reasons. These days, Jarrod Schulz lives a much quieter life. In April 2019, he took over ownership of a neighborhood spot called Rush Bar and Grill in Lake Forest, California. The bar describes itself as a family-friendly environment with live music and karaoke nights. According to the bar's website, Jarrod pursued the opportunity with the goal of running a great neighborhood hangout. He's also moved on romantically. Jarrod has been linked to a woman named Rochelle Beckman, who reportedly works as a bartender at his establishment. The two have appeared together in photos on his social media, though Jarrod rarely posts anything these days. His clothing line, Outlaw Apparel, appears to have shut down. The brand's website now redirects to a domain sale page, and Jarrod hasn't promoted it in years. Meanwhile, Brandi has continued thriving. She remains a main cast member on Storage Wars, which is now in its 16th season. She's also launched a podcast and moved on with a new partner. In October 2021, she got a tattoo of the word free on her finger, later explaining that it represented escaping a very difficult situation that many people fall victim to. The story of Jarrod Schulz is one of second chances and missed opportunities. He went from prison in his 20s to reality TV stardom in his 30s, building a career and a family alongside a woman who believed in him. For over a decade, he was a household name, someone fans rooted for every week. But somewhere along the way, things fell apart. A secret breakup, a confrontation at a bar, a pile of legal charges, and a network that quietly moved on without him. Today, Jarrod runs his bar in Lake Forest and stays far from the spotlight. He hasn't appeared on television since 2021, and there's been no indication that A&E has any interest in bringing him back. His social media has gone mostly silent, and the empire he once built with Brandi has crumbled. Brandi, on the other hand, has flourished. She's still bidding on storage units, still entertaining fans, and still moving forward with her life. Two people who spent nearly 2 decades together are now living completely separate lives. And while Jarrod's story isn't over, one thing is clear. The Jarrod Schulz fans once knew is gone. What comes next is anyone's guess.